Every day in the UK, 1 in 5 business owners are thinking about closing their businesses due to high levels of stress or low levels of motivation. 79% of small and medium business owners in the UK report that owning a business has a negative impact on their mental and or physical health. And every year in the UK, over 250,000 businesses close. What's the main reason for this? Owner dependency. Businesses being overly dependent on the owner, not giving them freedom, making you feel trapped, making you feel stressed, leading to you having a thing that you can't sell and that you just want to escape. And in today's video, I'm going to take you through the proven process that we work with our clients to help them take their businesses from being overly dependent on the owner to being team and system led in weeks, not years. A very quick download on me before I talk you through this process and this system. My name's Mike Jones. I served 5 years in the military, did a couple of tours in Afghanistan attached to the special boat service. So that's where I started to really understand the good leadership, the way to have good systems and good processes and good leadership. After that, I spent 3 years traveling. I lived on monasteries in Thailand and Nepal with monks. And then I also worked on deep sea fishing boats. Came back to the UK and felt inspired to start a business. Had no business acumen in my family, no business experience, but I knew that I wanted to get into business because of the impact you can have, the lifestyle you can build, all of these different things. And I thought to myself, arrogantly, that business was going to be easy for me because I've been in the military, I've served in Afghanistan, I've worked on deep sea fishing boats, I've mastered my mind living with monks and monasteries in the Himalayas. Business should be pretty straightforward. And over 5 years of owning this business, bootstrap startup, the business grew every year. The business did really well. It doubled in revenue and profit every year. We grew a team. We had happy clients. But over that 5 year period, whilst the business was improving, I was declining. I was making all of the mistakes. The business was completely dependent on me. It was having a negative impact on my quality of life, a negative impact on my health, and a negative impact on my relationships. And eventually, when COVID came along, I was so tired and burnt out with that business that I decided to close it and then spent the next 3 years from that learning about how to own a business that you can actually enjoy, and went on to create the businesses that we have now, which help owners remove themselves from their businesses, create win-win cultures in their businesses. I'm also a best-selling author. I've got an Amazon best-selling book, The Better Happy Business Revolution. And what I'm going to share with you today is the process that we've refined from working with tons of different businesses, big and small, over the last 5 years to help them make a win-win in their business and take your business from being dependent on you to being able to work without you and eventually something that you can sell. You're going to want a pen and paper because you're going to want to write some of this stuff down so that you can utilize it in your own business. Okay, who's this video for? Who's it not for? What we want to do is show you how to make your team and your business work without you. Okay, so it works in any industry. It doesn't matter if you're in a boring industry, low-paid industry, industry where you're telling yourself that you just can't scale this thing, it has to be reliant on the owner. It works in absolutely any industry, and we've done it with businesses of all shapes and sizes in even the most boring industries. It doesn't matter if you're in a low-paid industry, it will still work. You can still make your business work without you. You've just got to overcome some of these mindset issues that you might have. You do need to have a team for this system to work. So you need to have 5 to 50 employees. If you've got 5 to 50 employees, you can get this system working in a matter of weeks. So if you've got a team in place, and you're feeling a bit stuck in the business, but the business has got like some proven history behind it, you just can't see how it can work without you, and you've got a team, this video is going to be a massive mind opener for you and create a win-win. Okay, so before we get into the actual system, we need to understand ourselves. We need to understand why do we get into this position? We start these businesses for freedom, and then we end up kind of feeling stuck and frustrated. And we start with high levels of motivation. So when we understand the problem, we can really effectively fix the problem. So what I'm going to take you through now is understanding why this happens. And the first thing we need to understand is something that we call the core four, right? So a business is an ecosystem of relationships, right? And there's 4 key groups or people or facets that need to work together and be happy for a business to be good, sustainable, and long lasting, right? So we've got the business itself. Okay, I'm going to write biz because it's easier, right? What that does is it gives you legitimacy, right? Your business as an entity. It gives you a bank account. It gives you the ability to trade legally and to exist and to charge money for your services, right? So what the business puts in is that legitimacy and that form. What it takes out, what it expects, is cash, profit, taxes, all of these things, okay? But definitely cash, right? So the business expects these things in return. So it gives you legitimacy, but in return, it expects cash, profit, revenue, all of these things, right? At the bottom right here, we've got the client. Okay, so and I should say that if we run out of cash, If we're not making any profit for years on end, well, obviously you can play the game and do certain things where profit's not important in the early stages, but eventually you want a profitable business. But forget that. If you're not making any cash or the cash flow's not there, the business is going to die, right? So we need cash, right? We also need clients. What the clients put into the business, well, they put in what we just talked about, right? Your clients put in your money. Okay, so they put in your money, and if you're really making them happy, they'll also put in referrals, so they become a marketing machine for you. And what they expect in return for that is a good service or a good product that is equal to or more than the money that they're giving you in their minds, right? So you've got to give them value. And if we keep those happy, if we're making money because the clients are happy and we're managing the cash and everything, then the business is working. But there's two other parties, right? There's two other groups that make this thing work, okay? And the first one is your team or your employees. Okay, what does your team put in? They put in work, right? They put in effort. They put in marketing as well. Like if your team are really happy and they love you, they'll promote your business for you. And if you're paying them for marketing, obviously they'll market your business. So they put in work, they make the business grow. And what do they expect in return? Well, they expect wages and they expect some other stuff as well, which we will talk about towards the end of this video, how to maintain high levels of employee motivation and how it's not just money that is the key driver of that. Okay, but they put in the service, the delivery, the growth of the business. They expect money in return and a culture that they enjoy, which we'll talk about towards the end of this video. And then we've got the one that often gets overlooked. And if you're watching this video, I'm going to assume you're probably one of the owners that's overlooking this, like I did. Okay, so you got the owner. Okay, what does the owner put in? Well, at the start of your business, right, you put in loads of hard work, you put in stress, you put in your own money, you put in finances, you put in vision, you put in creativity, so you put loads into your business, right? And what do you expect in return? And the reason that I've finished with owner is because I need to go into this to explain to you that what you expect in return from your business changes as your business journey goes on, so the amount of years that you've owned your business, and as the business matures, okay? So what you expect in return changes, and that is what we've got to understand, and that will help us understand why we often feel super motivated at the beginning of business, maybe for the first 3 to 5 years, and then we kind of get stuck in this funk. When we can understand that, we can do something about it. So that's what we're going to do now. So first of all, what does an owner, what do you want from your business? Why did you start it? From years of working with different business owners and being a business owner myself, I know there's kind of 4 F's that we expect, okay? So we want finance. We want fun, we want fulfillment, and we want freedom. And obviously we're all different, all of us business owners are different and we've got different motivations, but we all want some form of balance across those things. Maybe some of us are, less focused on money and more focused on fulfillment. Maybe some of us are really heavily focused on money and we don't care that much about the freedom. We're happy to just work all the time. But what's important to understand is that we want a balance of those things, and it's just the balance is different per person, right? Now, this is where it gets interesting, and this is what we need to understand as business owners. Your business will go through 4 predictable stages. And as you go through those stages, what you want from the business will change. Your motivations as an owner will change, okay? And we need to understand that so that we can adapt our strategy to keep the business growing and keep ourselves motivated. What's probably happening, you'll realize in a moment, is that you're stuck at the end of stage 2. Okay, so we've got stage 1, which is the startup. And that typically lasts kind of 6 to 18 months, maybe a bit longer, maybe a bit less, okay? And this is the bit where you are creating your new idea, finding your feet, hustling, and just trying to find product market fit, okay? Now, in the startup phase, and I think most owners are quite highly driven by freedom. That's why we like our own businesses, okay? So in the startup phase, you probably aren't getting paid a lot of money. Maybe you were, maybe you got to a running start, or you already had a good marketing system in place, or you already had a good network that enabled you to bring money in straight away. But it's quite common that when you start business, you don't make a lot of money, right? Because you're figuring stuff out. But you're still happy, you're still motivated. Why is that? And the reason for that is that owners are very highly driven by freedom, right? In my opinion. So when you start a business, and fulfillment. So when you start a business, regardless of what you're getting paid, you're motivated because you're free from employment. You've become your own boss. You don't have to answer to anybody anymore. You can be creative. You can go out there and figure stuff out. So you're getting all this, you're getting 2 of these F's fulfilled, and you almost don't care about the money too much because we're very future focused as well as business owners, and we're telling ourselves that money is going to come in the future, willing to delay gratification. But of course, that can only last for 6 to 18 months-ish, give or take a few months, because we do need to make money. We have lives. We have to provide for ourselves. We have to provide for our families if we've got families. So after the startup phase, we find a level of what we call success. Okay, and I'm not talking about success as in we've completed the game of business, but I'm talking success in regards to the fact that we have found a product market fit, we're making some money, and we've built a team. And we've got a half decent name for ourselves, right? So this is what we call the success phase, right? And this can last typically anywhere between 3 to 5 years. But if you stay in this stage for too long, where everything is dependent on you, right? So in the success phase, I should explain this now. I should explain this a bit more clearly. In the success phase, you're building a team and you're getting the name for yourself, and everything is dependent on you. The team are dependent on you, the business is dependent on you, the clients are dependent on you to a certain level. And the reason for that is it's all in your own head. Like, you've only just come out of the start phase, you're still figuring it out, and you actually enjoy that. Typically for 3 to 5 years, maybe longer. You enjoy that you're figuring it out, that you're the leader, that people look up to you, that your team respect you, that you are the kind of team leader. You enjoy it, and rightfully so, right? That's why it's called the success phase. It's enjoyable. But there's a problem, right? And the problem is, if we go back to the first piece of paper that I showed you, is owner dependency. Right? The business is dependent on you. And that is cool until it's not. And at some point, it's going to not be cool, right? And that's why you're watching this video, because you're probably at the point where you're like, I want freedom from this business. I want to be able to go on holiday with my kids or my wife or on my own, whatever. I want to be able to enjoy going on holiday. I really want to make some money from this business, more than what I would make in a job, because I've put a lot of time, effort, blood, sweat and tears into it. So I need to make some money from it, but I don't want to have to work loads for that money. I don't want to have to work crazy hours to earn decent money. And that is a completely normal, rational thing to come to. And I think what happens with most owners is we don't proactively think about that in the early stages of business, right? We just get to this point where we've been working for years, and all of a sudden we kind of like start to feel resentful towards our business. So we move into what's called the slog phase, right? And it's not that you're a bad person. It's basically the latter part of the success phase. But we get to this point where we're just like, we want more from our businesses, and rightfully so, but we haven't planned for it and we don't know how to do it. We're also used to creating success for us being the leader, right? For us being involved in everything. That's what we know. It's the old saying of what got you here won't get you there, right? So that's what we know. So we just want to keep doing that, but actually it's not working for us. And if you stay here for too long, and this is what I really want you to understand, this is one of the key things to take from this video. If you stay in this stage for too long where you're not feeling motivated for your business and you're feeling resentful towards it because it's not giving you the lifestyle and the finances that it should do for the amount of effort that you're putting in, you're going to go on a downward spiral, and so is your business, right? You're just going to feel less motivated every year. Every year you're going to try and set goals at the beginning of the year, but you're going to have no heart for it. Every year you're going to work hard but feel like you're not getting anywhere. Every year you're going to get to the end of the year and feel like, we've been busy, but we've not really achieved anything, and you're just going to lose your vitality. And business owners, entrepreneurs, we're a funny breed, right? We like to be motivated. We like to be the leaders, the vision-driven, inspiring people. So when we're not feeling that, it's a double-edged sword for us, because number one, we're not motivated, and number two, we're beating ourselves up because we're not motivated. So it's a real dangerous trap to fall into, and I think this is why those statistics around business owners being burnt out, being stressed, so many businesses closing, is because of this, right? We get stuck in this slog phase, and we don't know how to move out of it, and we accept it, and we don't try and do anything about it, and we end up just feeling flat, demotivated, not liking ourselves because we're flat and demotivated, having a business we don't really care about, which means that we're not motivated at work, which means our team aren't motivated because we're not. And this business that we created to give us a great lifestyle turns into this kind of burden that we have in our lives. So I've been in that position. Every owner that I've worked with has been in that position. It's very normal to be there. So I just hope that just listening to that, you understand, okay, this is a normal part of business, getting to this phase where what got me here isn't going to get me there. Getting to this stage where I'm no longer cool with the whole thing being dependent on me. Getting to the stage where I want more from my business. That's perfectly normal. It's perfectly okay. In fact, it's a win-win if we listen to it and we adapt our strategy. But if we stay where we are, we're just going to go on a downward spiral. Okay, how do you then get out of the slog phase? Okay, you move into a phase that business owners typically don't like doing, right? And that's the systems phase. Okay, now you're probably not very excited to do systems because you're an entrepreneur. You're ideas driven. You like changing stuff. You like being frantic and chaotic because that's just the way you're hardwired. But you've got to systemize your business. So you can follow this process that I'm going to share with you today. or you can use somebody to help you with it. That's not a sell. Obviously, it's something that we provide, but you can do this on your own, absolutely. But you've got to get it in your mind. What's important to me for you right now is that you accept in your mind that I do have to move into Systemize, or I'm going to stay in this stage where I'm not fulfilled. Now, if you move into Systemize, this creates a win-win across the core four again. Now, let's start with you, okay? If you systemize the business in the way of doing stuff and you empower your team, you're going to have to work less. You're not going to have to spend as much time managing your team, which owners hate. You're not going to have to spend as much time firefighting or dealing with operational issues. So you get your freedom back, right? In fact, you can manage your team with this system in place. And if you stick to it, within about 14 weeks, you can reduce the time you spend on stuff you hate to 1 day a week. Okay, why would you not want to do that, right? So you're going to get your freedom back. You're going to get your fun back because you're going to be able to have time to go and do the stuff you enjoy, but also you're going to do the jobs at work that you actually like doing, or you can spend the time off. So you can spend your time on strategy and growth and ideas as opposed to managing people and dealing with issues that the systems can fix. Okay, your team are going to be more motivated because instead of everything being reliant on you, which was cool at the beginning, you actually empower them to make decisions and do stuff without you, which makes them feel good. And we'll talk about that towards the end of this presentation. The clients get a more consistent experience because you've got out of the way, and the team have an efficient process to follow that they're going to build for you. So your clients get a more consistent experience, and you can reach more clients due to the efficiency. And then all of that leads to a better bottom line, more revenue, or more profitability on the revenue that you're making. And finally, this is the really important part that moves us into, I'm not going to be able to fit it in here, but the sale or scale phase of business, right? When you've got a systemized business, the natural, logical next step is that you can either scale it to this big beast, which is a whole new challenge, or you can sell it, because a systemized business that isn't dependent on the owner is a sellable asset and people will want to buy it. And it's going to be at least double the value that it is now, right? Because an owner-dependent business is very difficult to sell, and it's going to come with a horrible deal where you have to stay working in it anyway. And it's not very attractive to investors. So it's just going to reduce the value and make it hard to sell. If it's working without you, it's profitable and cash flowing healthy without you, you've got a happy team in place and proven processes, your business is going to be attractive to investors and you're going to be able to sell it if you want to. Okay, so it's the natural culmination of the effort of doing this stuff. You end up with a business that you can sell if you want to, but you don't have to. And what you really want is a business that you can sell, but you don't want to because you love it. Okay, so that's where you get to by doing this. But please, 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 my mission in life is to redefine entrepreneurial success and stop business owners burning themselves out in the pursuit of their goals. The world needs business owners like you. It needs entrepreneurs that are willing to work differently, to create, and to get something started from the ground up. We need people like you. What we don't want is people like you getting burnt out, and you're going to get burnt out if you stay in this slog phase. So if you've lost your love for your business, or you're feeling resentful towards it, or you're feeling stressed, move into the systems phase. Accept that you've got to move into the systems phase, and you've got to take the business from owner dependency to team and systems led. And I promise you, you'll create a win-win again, and you'll get your love back for it. And what I'm going to show you now is how to do that. It's really important for me. It's just my style. So if you don't enjoy this kind of understanding the mindset piece, you're probably not going to like a lot of my content, because for me, it's really important that we don't just understand what we need to do, but we also understand why it is we're not doing what we need to do. Because that's normally the barrier. Like, most of us could pick up a book and figure out how to systemize our business, or figure out how to put processes in place, or figure out that the issue with our business is it's dependent on us. Most of us can figure that out, right? But what we need to understand is how the mind's getting in the way of that. So why we're not doing what we know we need to do. That's where I think the magic really lies when it comes to solving our problems. So a lot of what I'll do isn't just do this, this, and this. It's like, this is why you need to do this. This is probably why you're not going to do it. And this is how to overcome those mental barriers that you get. I think that's a really important piece. It's something that I've needed in my journey. I've spent a lot of money on business mentorship, hundreds of thousands of pounds. And a lot of the time, I've actually needed help on a psychological level, not just on a tactical level, right? So I think that's why I'm so passionate about this. Most of the owners I work with and teams that I work with, we spend a lot of time on that. Like, you need to do this thing. What's going to get in the way? Nothing. And then we go and try and do it, and they don't do it. You're like, well, why didn't you do it? And actually, it's these inner demons that we need to work on, or these thought processes, which I'm going to help you with now as well. So this is just summarizing what I just said there into a nice kind of aphorism, right? So a win-win business, to have a win-win business where everybody's happy, so that's you, your team, your clients, the business, the cash, the bank, even the tax man, right? Because the more money you're making and the more profitable your company is, the better the tax man, the more money the tax man gets from you. So for you to create this, when you start, you're going to have an owner-dependent business, right? And that's perfectly normal and okay. Right, that's how we depend Is it ENT or ANT? Owner dependent, right? So we'd start with, we have an owner dependent business, right? That's how we start. But then we have to transition to team and system led business. We have to. That has to happen. And if it doesn't happen, you're stuck with a business that you can never retire from, that you can never sell, that's always dependent on you, and you're probably not going to be happy, right? Maybe there are some cases of people that are just happy to own a business that's reliant on them until they retire, and that, you know, they save enough cash away from it to justify it, and they don't need to sell it. But for most of us, that's not the case. We're going to want a business that gives us a lifestyle that we can sell at the end, that doesn't consume us all day, every day. Okay, so we have to make this transition. If you only take one thing from this video, I hope you take a lot more. Please drill that into your mind that you need to make that transition. Okay then, right. What we need is an owner motivation aligned strategy. Okay, we need to make you motivated to do this. Okay, and if you're not motivated, we need to start fixing that motivation. And what we've talked about is obviously we need to make the business non-reliant on you, non-independent. But we also need to make sure that you're motivated to do the stuff you need to do to make the business work without you. So what we do is, and this is through, again, lots of experience of working with different business owners, is we focus on what we call an aligned strategy. Okay, so this, you can do this today, right? But what we need to do is, instead of just going, right, I want the business to be systemized and work without me, so we need to make this much and blah, 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 blah. We need to start with what we call the owner strategy. Owner strategy. Okay, and this is where we get really clear on what do you want from your business. Okay, what do you want from your business in 1 year, in 2 years, 3 years, and in 5 to 10? What do you want from your business over those timeframes? And we use the 4 F's that I talked about in the previous part of the video. Okay, so we've got fun, freedom, finance. Sorry, I know I'm probably not writing big enough, but I'm saying it out, and fulfillment. I always get fulfillment wrong. Is it 1 hour or 2 hours? Who knows? Doesn't matter. Right, so then we have these 4 things: fun, freedom, finances, and fulfillment. And then we write, what do we want across 1 year, 3 years, then 5 to 10 years across those things. Typically, what you're going to write is how much money you want to draw in a year. Typically, across that 3 or 5 to 10 years, it's the amount that you want to sell your business for, your kind of retirement pot. Freedom is how much time off do you want every year, how many holidays do you want to go on, how many hours do you want to work, how many hours do you not want to work, do you want to work a 3-day week? So just get clear on that, and please don't let what you believe as being the realms of possibility hold you back from what you think you can write here. Okay, like, just write what you want, because the current version of you might not fully understand that it's possible to make this stuff happen, but you've got to write it to then set the tone, right? So we need to do that, right? So we need to get clear on the freedom. How much money do you want? I've already mentioned that. And then fun and fulfillment kind of cross over. So it's kind of like, what jobs do you want to be doing? What jobs don't you want to be doing, right? So if you want to feel fulfilled at work, is there certain jobs you're doing now that you hate doing? Like managing your team is a common one for business owners. I don't want to have to manage my team. I don't want to have to keep checking in on them that are doing stuff. So we could write that down: not managing team, or less than 1 day a week spent managing team, or not doing it whatsoever. So those are the kind of 4 things that I want you to write down. And you build this kind of chart here that I've just done, right? So you don't need to make it complicated. So you do a column there, your columns here, and then you just write, and each one, sorry, obviously you'd have fun, 1 year, I want this; freedom, 1 year, I want this; finance, 1 year, I want this; 3 years, I want that. And it doesn't have to be, this should take you about half an hour to 60 minutes, right? It doesn't have to be the world's most perfect plan. It just needs to be a plan, because we can refine it over time. What they call people that create statues, they start with a block of stone, right? And then they carve it down. So your plan doesn't have to start perfect. It just starts rough, and then we keep carving it down over time. Okay, what that then does, once we've got that in place, is, well, first of all, it's going to make you feel motivated, because all of a sudden you're thinking about how your business is going to work for you. And this is one of the things that I think the business owners that get stuck, like me in my first business, and many of the owners that I've worked with since, one of the biggest mistakes we're making is we're not being sensibly selfish with our businesses, right? We're putting everybody else first. We're thinking about the money. We're thinking about the money in the bank. We're thinking about the team and paying them and making sure they've got food on the table. And we're thinking about the clients, but we're just forgetting ourselves. And it comes from this kind of mentality at the start of business where we're kind of like, you know, I don't mind sacrificing myself for a while to get this thing working. And that's great, but that's not sustainable, because you will end up resentful towards your business and you won't be motivated. Whereas if you get clear on, I want a business that I can have 3 months off a year straight and go backpacking. I can take 100 grand home. I can invest. I can do this. I can do that. I only do the work that I enjoy, like Mike right now doing presenting. I love this stuff. You know, I don't have to manage my team. Once you get clear on that, you're going to be like, bloody hell, I feel excited for my business again. Okay? And that's what you've got to do, because it's that's going to keep you driven long term to do the stuff that we need to do to make it happen. So we've got to get clear on that. Please don't skip that phase. If you're feeling flat, this is what you're missing. If you feel like you would struggle to do that on your own, you can go to mikejones.live, use my button there, and the links are in the video, and then you can book a call with me or one of the team, and we can help you do it, obviously for a cost, but if you want to do it on your own, please do. Right, owner strategy. After that then feeds into the financial strategy. And again, we're not talking about the perfect plan here. We're talking about top level plan. Right, and if you're feeling guilty that you don't really have a financial strategy for your business, even though it's quite a substantial business, it's normal. A lot of the businesses that we work with, you just kind of like, they have no financial plan. It just kind of happened. The business has just got to where it is. We landed on a product market fit or service product fit, and we kind of don't really know what's going on, but it's working somehow. Okay, but what we need now, though, is thinking about the owner strategy, is what's the kind of top-level financial strategy that's going to fulfill that. And again, we're not talking about, you don't need to go and sit with your financial director for this. If you've got one, you don't need to sit with your accountant for this at the start. You just need to sit down and try and figure out, okay, what kind of money does my business need to make to give me what I want? Okay, and the things that are going to influence this is like, well, if I don't want to do these jobs, then I'm going to need to hire for that. Okay, I need to have, or outsource that. I'll get a freelancer or a fractional. So that's going to have a cost. If I only want to work, if I want to be able to take 4 months off a year or 6 months off a year, I only want to work a 3-day week, okay, I'm going to need to hire for that. So I need to consider what that's going to cost. I want to draw X amount from my business. And obviously over the long term, it's going to be, I want my business to be sold. So then we're going to have to think about, okay, well, what's the revenue need to be? What's the multiplier in your industry? But I'm not going to get bogged down in that today, but we just want to try and think top level numbers. So you're normally going to think about revenue. You're going to think about profitability. You're going to think about, the salary that you want to take or the dividends that you want to take and how that's going to come out into the business plan. And then you're going to start to think about average client value and how many clients do we think we need, cost to acquire a client. So it's just some top level numbers like that. I can't give you the full list today because it will change on a business by business basis, but you've got to start with the top level. And again, back to that stone analogy that I just used. Don't start beating yourself up or get frustrated here if you don't have the perfect plan, because what we're going to do once we've got this plan is we're then going to go to our accountant or we're then going to go to our financial director and we're going to say, this is what I want to happen. And then they're going to help us fine tune it and pick it apart and question it. But if we don't start with what we want, we've got nothing to go with them with, and it's just they just kind of tell us what's going on. So this is changing the whole kind of way that we think about our business and our finances by us thinking about what I want to take home, what jobs I do and don't want to do. Okay, what kind of money do I think the business needs to make? And you should, from your this is why we say, we work with owners that have got some experience behind them and good, tends to be 5 years of trading plus, because you've got numbers there, you've got data there that you can pick apart and figure out averages that will help you understand this. So that's the next piece then, the financial strategy, top level. In the military, to call it fag packet planning when you write it on the back of a packet of cigarettes, or napkin planning. So it doesn't have to be super detailed, but you just have to have something down. And trust me, just this process of like getting this clarity around what you want is going to help you get motivated again and feel driven for your business. Finally then, we have business strategy. Okay, so I'm going to box this off because I'm struggling to read my own writing. But we've got business. I'm going to write it down here, right? So we've got business. I'm going to write it big. I'm learning as I go. Business strategy. And again, what we mean here is top level. We're not talking about a 10-page business plan. We're not talking about war and peace. We're not talking about your manifesto. We're talking about a 1-page business plan that tells us, okay, for us to make the kind of money that we need to make, to give me the lifestyle that I want and create the culture that I want, how do we need to position ourselves? What kind of products and services are we selling? You should already know that. Who's the ideal client? And this is what we want to get clear on here. Why would they be drawn to us? What's the kind of key pricing point that we want to charge? How do we need to position ourselves for that? So it's very top level, this business strategy. It's kind of vision, mission, ideal client, pricing strategy. And what you'll often realize with this, and this is what I found with a lot of smaller and medium businesses, is you probably don't want to work with loads of clients. So you probably want to work with a smaller amount of clients if you're a service-based business, and you probably want to be one of the higher level providers. You probably need to charge more. So this is often a kind of mental blocker that we have. I had this experience in my first business where we realized that if we want to be good and we want to have a nice profitable business that delivers a great service to our clients, often we just need to charge more. And there's so many great examples of businesses that are doing this, even with products, right? So I'll show you my shoes right now. I've got my Vivo Barefoots on, right? So these are flat style boots, right? And they've got people that are going to be interested in them because the whole selling point is they're flat. Then they're flat and they're wide, so they enable you to use your feet naturally, right? So they've just found the niche in the market. They've designed it all around this messaging and this health piece, and then they find people that like me that are willing to pay, well over the odds for a pair of boots because it's higher quality and it's towards my needs. So it works with products, it works with services. There's people out there that want to spend more. This isn't a pricing video, but that might be a conclusion that you come to that you need to charge more. But regardless, the whole point in this exercise is that you end up with a kind of strategy which is talking about your vision and your mission and your pricing point and your ideal client that's linked to what you want. This is the key thing, right? It's not just I've got to make more money because I've got to make more money so we've got some cash in the bank and it's not stress. It's I want to do this so that we can fulfill our clients' needs, but also give me the lifestyle that I want, and that's going to make you motivated. And if it's making you feel icky, like that, you should be thinking about yourself. You just got to get over it. Like we're all selfish. We're all selfish to an extent. Every single human being on the planet has got a level of selfishness in them. Otherwise, we'd all be dead because we just give everything away to other people that need it more than us, right? So you have to be sensibly selfish as a business owner. You have to think about what you want. You have to make sure that your business is aligned to your needs and your desires, and that you can see a pathway to it working for you, so that you can stay motivated, which enables you to be a good leader to the people around you, to have the drive to keep your business growing, to systemize it, to do whatever you need to do to make it good, and also just to be the healthiest, happiest, best version of you. So you've got to be sensibly selfish. Yes, it was great for you to get your business started, that you sacrificed yourself and that you just didn't pay yourself and that you worked really hard, but that is not going to lead to a business that can sell. That's going to keep your business stuck in the slog phase, going to keep you stuck in the slog phase, and it's going to make your business just stagnate and you feel miserable. So get selfish, sensibly selfish. Don't be an arsehole, but let's be sensibly selfish, and let's build a business strategy and financial strategy that's linked to what we want so that we're motivated. Your team will respect you for it, trust me. You don't need to tell them either. Okay, right. Let's get into the systems then. So we've got that. That's what we call the owner motivation system that we just looked at there, right? Alignment, the aligned strategy. So we make sure that we're actually pursuing a thing that you're motivated by. Now we need to get into systemizing the business. And there's three things, right? Three measures that we really want to be tracking in your business. And this first word is health. And I don't mean the health. I don't mean well-being of individuals. I mean the health of the business, right? And we do that through something called KPIs. KPI, key performance indicator, and scorecards. Okay, how are you measuring the health at your business at the moment? Often, it's owner's intuition, owner having emergency conversations with accountants and team, and feedback from people, and there's not really any structure or system in place. It's just kind of ad hoc, right? That's not a sellable business. That's not a scalable business. That's not a business that will work without you. That's not a business where you can empower your team. So we've got to start getting clear on our KPIs and our scorecards. And what they tell us is, how healthy is the business? Is the business doing what it needs to do? But on a team and individual basis as well, it tells us how well is that person doing their job. And even for us as an owner, we're probably going to give ourselves some KPIs. Am I doing my job? We often have a fear here, back to a psychological barrier, that by putting KPIs in place, we're going to stress people out and then they're all going to leave and it's not going to create a nice culture. It's absolute BS, right? People want to know that they're doing a good job. It's hardwired within human psychology. Nobody wakes up in the morning and thinks, I can't wait to go to work today and do the minimum required to not get fired. But we're also hardwired to avoid stress and to avoid the unknown and to try and keep ourselves in a zone of comfort. And if we keep ourselves in a zone of comfort, we end up unhappy and bored. And that's what happens in most small and medium businesses. We don't put KPIs and scorecards in place because we don't want to stress people out. And then we end up with this culture of just averageness and boringness. And think about it. If you've got people coming into your business and they're high performers, right? So I am a high performer. Right? I like to do a good job. I like to know I'm doing a good job. I thrive off, knowing that I'm doing well. So if I went into a business, and I've had this, and I'm working really, really hard, right? And I'm really like grafting away because I want to do a great job. I want to perform at a high level. But there's no KPIs in place. There's no system in place for performance. I know I'm doing a great job, but it's not really recognized. And then there's 3 other people in my team that are just performing averagely because why would they bother doing anything else? Because they've got that nobody's checking, right? There's no KPIs. What's going to happen to me? Well, one of 2 things. I'm either going to just drop myself down to their level of averageness, because what's the point of me working harder if I'm not getting recognised and nobody's saying anything if I don't, or I'm going to leave and go to a better company, right? So you need to have KPIs and scorecards in place for individuals, and you want to have a scorecard for your business, okay? A top 10 scorecard for your business that tells you and your team how healthy is the business across 10 numbers. Right, so once we've got that in place, everything's going to start to get more professional. But we've got to have it in place. We've got to have a system to tell us how healthy the business is, not just the owner and their intuition. Right, the next thing then that we need to measure is growth. Is the business improving? Are we making the business better? Are we moving towards our goals? And we do that through something called OKRs, objectives, key results. It's a fantastic goal setting process. It's measurable, it's systemizable, it works, it's easy to implement, right? So objectives, key results, depending on the size of your business, you're either going to have business level objective key results, but you might have them in team levels as well. And you're probably going to work with them on an individual basis. So each individual would have OKRs. We'll talk about that towards the end. But what's important to know is you would say at the beginning of the year, you get together with your team and you'd look at, and we're going to talk through this process in a moment, you'd look at, okay, what do we need to achieve this year to make the business better? And what the OKR process does is it limits that to 3 to 5 things. So it makes you get really good at prioritizing. So instead of going, we're going to do these 50 things this year, which is what us business owners are really bad at doing, right? We're going to pursue all of these good ideas that have popped up in our heads. Instead of doing that, you get your team together and you say, what's the 3 to 5 things that are going to make the biggest difference? And all the businesses that I work with and teams I work with, we start with 3, because 3 objectives, let's say we want to make our marketing really great this year or fix our sales process, that turns into a lot of tasks, a lot of other measurable results. So 3 cascades into a lot, and most teams overestimate what they can achieve and then get overwhelmed. So I always limit it to 3. So you're going to have your objectives, and the way that this works, I'll explain shortly in a moment, but you have key results attached to each objective, you put it into a tracker, and then that then tells you very objectively, are we, no pun intended, are we making progress towards goals? So the KPIs and the scorecards tell us, are we doing business as usual? Are we making enough money? Are we keeping our customers happy? Are we profitable? Are we hitting the right margins? Whatever numbers you want to put in there. Often, a lot of them are going to be around money. And then maybe it's, are we acquiring new clients? Are we retaining clients? All of this stuff. So you're going to have a top 10. That's going to tell us how healthy the business is. Then you're going to have your objectives that tell us, are we making improvements? Okay, and it creates a growth mindset culture. And then the final piece then that you're going to measure, that you're going to systemize, is your values. Okay, you might hear the word values and be like, oh, that's a corporate kind of BS term that doesn't really mean anything. Your values are your behaviors that you want in your business. And you've got values, that's why some people you've had as employees you've absolutely loved, and some people you'd never want to have again, right? It's because they clash with your values. So what we need to do is extrapolate those values from your mind, maybe from your team, but mainly from you. And we need to communicate them into a top 3 to 5 values. I like to stick with 3. And then we measure them quarterly. We measure people across those values. Are the people in the business displaying those values, right? And we score them on that. And then we get to see, if we've got these 3 things in place as systems, are we doing what we need to do to be a healthy business? Are we improving as a business? Is there growth going on? Are we committing to the goals that we said we were going to commit to? And are we retaining the culture that I'm proud of because people are being in line with the values and the behaviors that I care about most? Get those 3 things in place, you've got a very systemized business, right? You've got a very measurable business that can work with or without you. So those are the 3 key measures. What's really good for you to know is that we don't just put this into small and medium businesses. We actually put this into a massive corporate in the UK with over 10,000 employees, and it works a treat because it just makes it objective. So this is a great process. It works in corporates. It will certainly work in your small and medium business. This is what's going to make your business not dependent on you. These are the 3 measures you've got to have. Okay, right. Let's look at the 3 systems that are going to make the business work without you. Okay, and these are the 3 systems that you can integrate into your business over a 14-week period. I'm going to explain that as I'm going through. But this breaks it down into a nice, simple process. You need these 3 things to take your business from owner dependency to team and system led, right? And to measure all those things that we just talked about. So the first one is clarity. Okay, we need to create clarity in our business. And what I mean by that is we need to take what's in your head as the owner, and we need to download that and turn it into something concise that the team can understand and that the team can act on, and that an investor could see even if you're not there. Okay, so we've got to get everything out of your head and onto paper. Typically, we struggle with this because we live in our own heads, but it's just a process. Everything's a process. It's just a system you have to follow. And the way that we do this then, the way that we create clarity is we do our aligned strategy, which we've already talked about, and that turns into a business plan. Okay, and what we have is a 1-page strategy map. And on this map, we're going to have our vision, our mission, our objectives for the year, which comes into here, which we'll talk about now, and our values. And that tells you and your team what this business is about. And when we attach that to your owner-aligned strategy, it keeps you motivated. The other thing we're going to do is a 2-pager. Okay, and on that, we break down what the business needs to do a little bit more specifically from 10 years down to 3 years down to the next quarter. But that kind of falls into this section here. So that's all we need to create clarity. And the great thing about this is as soon as you've got that down, your business is not dependent on you anymore because decisions can be made without you. You can see you can see what you want to make happen in your business on a piece of paper. Your team can go and make decisions. So all of that can happen once we start to get this stuff down on paper. So we start with the aligned strategy, then we go to the 1-page strategy map, and we have a 2-page planner as well. So that's all you need to create clarity. You can do all of that in less than a day. Okay, it doesn't have to take you any longer than that. Right, the next thing that we have is focus. And this is a superpower in business in today's day and age. If you think about the Industrial Revolution period, it was all about who could have the maximum output, who could output the most, who could create the most product in the warehouse, right? So everything in business was about output. We live in a very different world today. We live in a world where the way in which we can work has sped up 100 times. Like think about how long it used to take to book a meeting, right? You'd have to, before the internet, you'd have to phone every person that you want at that meeting. You'd have to phone either them or their assistant and you find out when they're free. Okay, so somebody's got to do that. So that's going to take ages. Then you've got to align all those dates and you've got to find a meeting room, okay, that's free at that time. Then you've got to arrange everybody's travel to get to that meeting room. Remember, we haven't got the internet. Okay, so that's going to take days. And then everybody's got to get there, then we have the meeting. So think about how many hours that would have taken previously, less than 100 years ago. And now think about today, how do you arrange a meeting with a group of people? You click on Google, you put the date into the calendar and you type everyone's email in and it's done, like seconds. And then seconds later, or hours later, or days later, everybody's on that call, talking to each other live in person. So it's an exponential increase in how fast we can work. So what that means is that it's not about who can do the most work, because if you're trying to do the most in an environment where you can work that fast, you're just going to constantly be doing new stuff and constantly not be getting anywhere with the things that matter. So a superpower in today's business world is focus. Having the confidence, having the discipline, having the systems that enable you and your team to focus on the few things that really matter and make progress with them and not get distracted by all the shiny objects. And if you can do that, or if your team can do that, you will wipe the floor with your competition, because whilst you're making progress on a few things that are really making your business better, your competitors are getting distracted with every new toy that's popping up and not really getting anywhere. And everybody's stressed and everybody's frustrated. So focus is a superpower. How do we focus? What system enables focus? What we've already talked about. Objectives, key results. Okay, OKR, because that forces us to prioritize and it forces us to get clear on what really matters. And the way we do this is we do it yearly, 1 year. Every year, you and your team spend 2 days together, and this has got an employee engagement factor to it as well. And I'm saying you spend time with your team, but obviously once you've done this a few times, this can happen without you. Your team can run this, or you can get a COO or somebody or a general manager to run this for you, right? So this doesn't have to be you. At the moment it is. So every year, once a year, 2 days together, you and your leadership team. If you're a big business, obviously not the whole team because that gets confusing. But you and your leadership team, you're going to get together and you're going to spend 2 days looking at the previous year and planning what needs to happen for the next year. Okay, and you're going to use the OKR framework to make that happen. So we're going to end up with 3 objectives that we're going to focus on for this year, and then we're going to come up with key results below that tell us what those objectives, how we know those objectives have been successful. So if we said we want to really improve our marketing this year, okay, that's what's going to really make the big difference to the business. The key results to tell us, okay, well, what does success mean there? Well, it means we generate X amount of clients, we generate X amount of leads, we do that at a cost of X so that we keep our marketing spend at this. All right, so we just get very specific, obviously more specific than what I've just said there. So what that does is it enables us to focus on the few things that matter and be very, very specific about what success looks like. And then what we do, which is the next piece up, is we go to a quarterly OKR. So you'd have 4 a year, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you do the same process again based on the yearly. You go, okay, we've got a yearly plan, we've got our vision and our mission, we know what we're about, we know what we're trying to achieve. What do we need to focus on over the next 3 months to make progress? And this is because humans can work quite well in 12-week periods. We can't focus much longer than that. So you can't just work off your yearly goals. You've got to break them down quarterly. This takes you 1 day, once a quarter. The owners that we work with, we get them involved in that, but then we try to remove them from the next piece, which I'm going to talk about in a moment, as soon as possible. But we then break that down into quarterly, right? So then we'd say, oh, we've got a marketing thing this year. What do we need to do to make that happen over the next 3 months? So one of our clients at the moment, massive focus on improving the conversion rate on their website. So they get X amount of visitors and they convert at about 0.5. And if they can get that up to 1%, it's millions of pounds to the business. Right, so that's what they're focusing on for the quarter. And it's very specific, it's very measurable. And what you also do, and what we can show you how to do, is you build trackers. So you could do this on a spreadsheet, on a piece of paper, but you write the goals and you write down the measures and then you track them over the quarter, which is what I'm going to talk about here. But what this does is because you have these quarterly days that are pre-booked into the calendar for everybody, it holds people to account for being growth-minded, right? So people have committed to goals. We know this is our business now. We plan goals every year. We plan goals every quarter. We're not just focusing on what we don't want. We're focusing on what we do want. There's another mindset piece. And we use quarterly planning to make that happen. So that's the OKR process. I'm not going to break that down step by step for you today. If you do want to learn more about it and geek out on it, you can go and read the book Measure What Matters by John Doerr. Really good book with loads of case studies in there. Breaks the process down. Or, of course, as I mentioned at the end, you can book a call with us and we'll just put all this in your business for you, but you cannot absolutely do it on your own. So you need to have your yearly and your quarterly OKRs. That creates focus, okay? So we now focused on what we're improving. The other thing that enables focus is measuring our KPIs and measuring our scorecard, which I'm going to talk about now. So then the final piece that brings all this together is accountability. Accountability. A bit like with the KPI stuff, a lot of business owners are resistant to do this. They don't like the word accountability, and it makes them think that they're micromanaging people or they're putting pressure on people and all this stuff. So we need to talk about that very quickly. And the reason we need to talk about that is it comes back to this human psychology piece, right? Humans want to know they're doing a good job. We are goal-driven creatures. We like to know that we're improving and that we're making a difference. It's just hardwired within our DNA. But as I mentioned earlier, we also have a lot of fear, and given the opportunity, if the environment allows it, we will gravitate towards comfort. And in the short term, that will make us feel more comfortable and less stressed. But in the long term, it's really detrimental to our self-worth, to our confidence, and to our overall happiness. And this is why we've got so many unhappy people in today's modern environment. Life's never been more comfortable. We've removed so many of the issues that have been so prevalent over recent times, right? So theoretically, people should be happier, but they're not, because we made the environment so comfortable that people have stopped pushing themselves. People sit at home. They don't work. They don't grow. They don't try for the promotion. They just sit at home and watch TV and don't move. And then they feel comfortable in the short term, but in the long term, they don't feel very good about themselves. Their self-worth declines. So now let's think about that in the context of your business, right? If you are not holding people accountable, including yourself, with a system, human psychology, not people being bad, just years of human evolution, means that people are going to gravitate towards comfort. They're going to resist holding themselves accountable to the things they said they were going to do, right? And this is probably one of the most common frustrations we have with the owners that we work with. It's like, why are my team not doing what they said they were going to do? And it's not because 9 times out of 10 teams are lazy. It's not because they're bad people. It's because they are human beings and they're not being held to account. So they're just gravitating away from holding themselves accountable to these goals that they might not hit. So they don't have to go through this kind of fear of failure and this fear of not looking good. So we've got to override that for the greater good of your employees, not just for the business, but also for their confidence in the long term. And again, with the accountability piece, it's about how you position it, right? So I'm going to show the system now, but if we've got a system in place that holds people accountable to what they said they were going to do, and then we're jumping all over people and making them feel bad if they miss a goal, well, then obviously we're going to have issues in the business, right? But if we create this culture where it's like we hold each other accountable, and if we're not hitting goals, we're going to support each other to make sure we do. Well, then we're creating a massive win, and people no longer feel scared of them. So it's just a bit of a time thing that comes with experience. But the more of this you do, and the better you do it, the better culture you'll create, the happier employees you'll have, and the better your business. So you've got to hold people accountable. I think I've made my case in point there, and you've got to have a system that does it. The standard system for holding people accountable in most businesses, small and medium, is the owner. Right? That's the system. It's the kind of ad hoc system that's arrived when the owner checks. People are, oh, I've got to do that thing. and then people normally drop the stuff, and then the owners get frustrated. One more mindset piece just before I get into this is your employees are not like you. Owners, us lot, we think that everyone should be like us, and our attitude generally is set a goal, go after it. Okay, just future focus, make the stuff happen. Why wouldn't you? That's just the way we think. Employees are different, and if they weren't, they wouldn't be your employees, right? They'd have their own businesses. So your employees aren't you. And what happens in a lot of businesses, I've got a separate video on something called the match method, which I'll mention briefly in a moment. But what happens in a lot of businesses is owners talk to their team about goals. The team just say yes because they want to please them, but the team aren't actually very clear on what they mean. And then the owner goes away thinking, great, they're going to smash that. And then the team are like, I don't even know what I've just committed to. And actually, I don't even know if I've got the time and capacity to do that. And, you know, all this stuff happens. And then the owner just goes away. That's you thinking, right, they're all just going to get on with that. You come back a month later, remember to check in with them. And they're like, oh, I didn't do that. And then you're like, why didn't you do it? You're frustrated. They're frustrated. You tell yourself this narrative that people just can't be asked. So then you get fed up asking people to do stuff and you feel flat and blah, 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 blah. So people do like hitting goals. People do like making growth. We've just got to create the right environment to make it happen, right? And we've also got to create the right environment to make sure that we don't let them gravitate back towards comfort. The match method, sorry I'm going on. The match method, I've got a separate video on. I'll link it in the video below here, but that is a short video that explains there's only 5 reasons your employees aren't doing what you asked them to do. And it's an acronym. So it's motivation, ability, time, capacity, time, clarity. So are they actually clear on what you want, and being held accountable? So it just kind of reinforces this. So you can watch that video if you like, but this is what you need, the accountability. Okay, so we've got clarity. We know what the business is about. We know what it needs to achieve. We know who we are. We know what the vision and mission is, and that's all aligned to what you want. So we're motivated for that. We've got the team involved in the planning process yearly and quarterly. So they're motivated. They're clear on what needs to happen. Now we just need to hold people to account, and we need a system to do that. And the way that we do that is with the weekly meeting. Okay, so we have a weekly meeting. It's 90 minutes. I learned it from a variation of it from a fantastic book called Traction, which explains a lot of this as well. We've just changed it slightly, but that's another great book that explains how to do these systems and processes. So the 90-minute meeting, and that's very structured, but what happens in the 90-minute meeting is we check in on the company scorecard. So is the health of the company right? So we're holding each other account to that, and we're checking in on it. If it's not, that's the top 10 numbers of the business. We check in on the OKRs, okay? So we've created objectives for the quarter with key results. How are they progressing every week out of 10? If we completed that, if we completed it, no. Okay, where are we? If it's stuck, we need to address that. Okay, so we have these check-ins on the company scorecard. We have these check-ins on your key results. And then what we do is we have a good 60-minute period or 55-minute period of that meeting to creatively problem solve as a team. Okay, so the meeting's not boring. The meeting's useful. So that team's together, we're looking at the key things. Is everything that needs to happen happening? Okay, what's the problems in the business? Is there any problems related to the objectives or to the scorecards? Any other problems? Right, let's solve those together now. And what that does is it creates that win-win culture, right? Where we're holding ourselves accountable to what we said we were going to do. Everybody's having to check in on those things that they said they were going to do weekly. So if they're not doing them, they're going to look bad and have to address it. And then we're using that time to creatively solve problems, which might be this key result that we said we were going to focus on isn't working. Right, let's all get together. Do we need to work together to make it better? Do we need to change the goal, etc., etc.? So once you get that in place, that weekly meeting and that structure, and you get people used to following it, and it happens every week at the same time, and it becomes a normal part of your business, you can remove yourself from that process, right? Because it's so structured. Now, there's ways you can do this, obviously. And normally when you start for the first 14 weeks, you want to be involved in it. But after that, you've done it so much with your team that you're like, right, you guys go and do that now. And if there's any issues out of that really need to be addressed to me, then bring that to me. But once you've got that in place, that weekly meeting in place and this stuff, and the team know how to do it, the business starts to be able to run itself. We don't need to ask the owner everything because we've got a clear vision and mission and business strategy. Okay? We don't need to wonder what we're focusing on from a growth perspective because we've got objectives that we've all agreed to over the year and over the quarter. What I would say is for the first year, for you as an owner, you want to be involved in these, definitely. Yeah, you want to be involved in the yearly and the quarterly planning. And then every week we hold ourselves accountable to that growth and help each other out in our 90-minute well-structured meeting. And that is a business with a growth mindset culture where it's always improving, where it's systemized, and where you as an owner can be freed from the daily operations, the management and the firefighting, so that you can focus on either having a life or the stuff that you enjoy, like strategy and growth. So those are the 3 systems that you need. They work a treat. You don't need to overcomplicate it. You just need those systems and processes. My final point then. So that's going to get you to that business that works without you. But that's all we need to do, right? And then you're going to be motivated again. So you're going to have a business that's working without you, that's growing without you, and you've got your life. And then the final piece then, we talked about owner motivation at the beginning, is just how do we keep our employees motivated? Well, there's a thing called Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? And what Maslow's hierarchy of needs tells us, this is a little bit small, sorry, I'm realizing that I needed my writer to be bigger. We'll zoom in. What that tells us is basically, I've made a simplified version here, but basically, all humans have a hierarchy of needs. Okay, we all have these needs that we want to fulfill, and once we've fulfilled one, we naturally move into the next one. Okay, so at the bottom, we've got safety, which you can't read my writing. Okay, and that basically means, have we got food and shelter? Have we got decent health? Have we got money? Basically, at a very basic level. And that's so people want money. Okay, but really, people only really want money for the basic needs. So if you're in a business where you're paying a lot of people minimum wage, it's not a deal breaker. You can still have very happy, motivated employees. There was a series on the BBC a few years ago, showing my age here, where they showed that a lot of the happiest employees in the world were in these really lower level jobs. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't be paying people more or that you should pay people less. Obviously, I'm not saying that. And ideally, we should pay people as much as we can afford to pay them. And that is a competitive advantage. But it's not the be all and end all. And there are a lot of people that aren't highly motivated by money. They just want enough to kind of get by. So don't tell yourself that money is the only factor that when it comes to motivating employees. But obviously, if they can't cover their basic needs with the money that you're paying them, that's an issue. But most of the time, in a lot of industries, people aren't super motivated by money. It's quite surprising, actually. And there's stats that show this as well. There was a stat a couple of years ago, or last year, that showed, I can't remember so don't quote me on this, but it was something like 45% of managers and above would consider taking a pay cut to go to a business that's more aligned to their values. Okay, so there's proof of the pudding there. Okay, so we've got safety, right? The next thing then, so once we've got our safety and we're getting the money and the stuff that we need, right? We want belonging or community. Okay, so let's say I've covered my basics. So imagine you're a caveman, right? You've covered your basics. You've got a shelter, you've got cave, you've taken care of that, and you've got food. The next thing you're going to start to crave is human intimacy, right? Not necessarily romantically, but you just want to be part of a community. It's very human, right? What's the worst punishment that we give to people in prison? Solitary confinement. We take that away. So after they've got the basic needs, they want belonging. And this is what you can think about as a business owner, right? How am I creating a sense of belonging in my business? And one of the ways that you can do that is by giving people positive feedback, and doing quarterly or bi-yearly events, socials. Okay, it's not always as black and white as that, so I don't want to prescribe it, because some businesses, you've got older staff that aren't that asked about the socials and all that stuff, but you do need to bring people together. So people want feedback, they want to know about each other, they want to network, and if you've got people that are working digitally and remotely, you have to think about how you're making that happen, because people feel very lonely and isolated when they're working at home. Okay, but the next thing is culture, basically. People want to belong. They want to feel like they're in a cool place. So bring people together. Have a laugh. There's a guy called Dan Priestley. You've probably heard of him because you're watching a business video. He's a business guru. He probably wouldn't like me saying that, but he's a very good businessman, very famous. I was on a ski trip with him recently, and he was saying, we were talking about this, and he was saying that one of the things he did to take his business from, I can't remember the exact numbers, but I think it was like 10 grand a month to 100 grand a month, or maybe it was 100 grand a month to £1 million a month. He has big businesses. He said one of the most impactful things was every Friday, him and the team went for champagne breakfast, and they just celebrated what they'd done for the week, and then every Monday they had a meeting and set what the goals were going to be. So they had focus at the beginning of the week and celebration at the end of the week. So sometimes I think business owners, we get so stuck in the business that we forget that we're working with human beings, and we want to get the best out of human beings, and we just need to have a laugh and bring people together. So think about that. Are you just treating your people like machines, or are you creating a sense of belonging? And think about the cost associated with that. Like, you need your team, you need a motivated team to run your business for you. Doing a few basic things that aren't particularly complicated will really drive up high levels of motivation. I used to work for a company after I left the military in Australia, really good family-run business. Every Friday, they used to buy everybody lunch, give everybody an hour off for lunch, play table tennis, play ping pong, and everyone gets to know each other, and it makes you like working there. And that was, for me, maybe over 10 years ago now. I still remember that as a really positive experience. And it wasn't a particularly high paid job, but I enjoyed it because of this social aspect of the job. So it's not a massive effort to make people have a sense of belonging, right? So just think about, are you bringing that in, and think about how much it's costing you to not do that. Employee low motivation, employee turnover, the cost to recruit somebody when you lose somebody. Right, so after that, we've got esteem. Can't write. Okay, so what we mean by esteem is people want to feel confident in themselves. So this is career progression or just knowing that they're doing a good job. Now, obviously, this is different for different people. Some people are like really driven to get better and to climb the ladder. Some people just want to know they're doing a good job. But everybody wants to like feel good about themselves. So after we feel like we belong in a community, the next thing we start to crave is knowing that we're doing a good job and potentially getting better. So are you giving people the opportunity to develop? Are you giving people feedback? And we're going to talk about a thing down here now, which is going to help you do all of this really well, called the PDP system. Okay, so that's the final piece. And then the very top one is actualization, which I'm not going to be able to fit in that box, but I'll just write, I'll write it here, right? Actualization. And what we mean by actualization is when somebody feels safe, they've got the basics, they belong to a community, they're confident in who they are, then it becomes more spiritual. Like, what's my goals? What's my vision for my life? Who do I want to become? So that's the next thing that we kind of get to, right? And we can help people with all of those things in our business by making sure that we've got a decent culture where we have some socials together, but by this fantastic system down here called a PDP, a personal development plan. Now, I've got a course on this where we give you the system. And this, by the way, this whole video isn't a sell for this system. I'm just letting you know. We've got a course on this where you can just drop the system into your business. You can, it's got video training, so your managers can watch the training and they can do it for your team. You can do it for them whilst you're getting the business structured. But the PDP is called the Personal Development Plan, and it's a quarterly check-in. Okay, so we say do it 3 to 4 times a year, and it's just 3 pieces of paper. 1, 2, 3. Right, and what you do is you have a personal check-in here, right? So this is very structured on the actual PDP process. So you have a wheel of life, right? And let's just say you spend an hour on each one, each meeting, so you have 20 minutes in each section. So the first one is a wheel of life. So it's one of those wheel of life. If you haven't seen it, just Google it after this video. So it basically shows you a wheel of life, and it gets people to score themselves on different areas of their life. Okay, and what that does is it helps you or your managers that are checking in with your team, or you checking in with your managers. It makes it all about them, so it's personal. So we get to check in and see how they're feeling, right? Has anybody ever done that with, you're a business owner now, but has anybody ever done that in your career? Like checked in and just said, on a regular basis, how you doing? Is there anything that you want to talk about? It's a very rare thing. Some managers are naturally good at doing it, some leaders are good at doing it, but certainly not systemized. So if we put this in your business as a process, the PDP, that everybody has a check-in with this quarterly, it systemizes high levels of employee motivation. By the way, this is in corporates as well, our process, and in businesses. It works a treat. It's an absolute game changer. And this will really, if you're trying to sell your business, this will really make investors be like, oh, okay, it's interesting. Like this business has got its act together. So the first one is the personal, right? So we check in with them, right? And that straight away, because what most businesses have is either nothing to check in with their employees or yearly appraisal, which is terrible because it doesn't work very well. Imagine only telling your partner how you feel about them once a year, and a load of it's negative. It's a crap process. Yearly appraisals need to be thrown in the bin. Okay, this is much better. So personal check-in, right? That's the first one, and it's you might be nervous about doing that, but if you watch the video training that we've got, it's very easy. Like you don't try and fix stuff for them. You just ask them questions and give people the environment to talk. All right, the next one's work. So this is where we check in on their KPIs, which you might not have yet. So that's a process you can do, and we talk about that in the training. You ask them for upward feedback about how they're experiencing work, and you score them on the values of the company as well. So we're looking at, are you performing? Are you happy with the work environment? Feedback from you to me, feedback from me to you, and then how have you been behaving on the company values? And this all gets recorded as well. So if you've got something that's consistently not in line with the values of your business, and that's getting addressed in the PDP, it's much easier to performance manage them out of the business. Whereas what happens in most businesses with owners is somebody's annoying us, we haven't written it down because we've got no process in place, and then we get to the point where we just want them out of the business, but because we've got no structure, it's really hard legally to manage them out of the business. But if you're doing this, and you've got a proof of evidence, a pool of evidence that, like quarterly, this person has not been aligned to the values and it's been addressed in the PDP. By the way, this is rare, because what will normally happen once you get this process in place and you get all this clarity on these other systems is the wrong people, the wrong fit for your business will remove themselves, and the right people will come. Like you'll attract more people that are a cultural fit. So that's the next piece, the work piece. And then the final piece is growth. And that's where you basically do help them set 3 goals. So it's normally one professional and one personal, and then whatever in between. But you help them set 3 goals. So looking at what we've talked about, your personal life, your work, what do we think you need to focus on as goals? And normally they're going to say, well, okay, I want to get ready for promotion, or I want to get better at this skill, so I'm going to go and learn how to do that piece of the trade, or I want to go on this course. And personally, I need to, I scored myself low on my physical health, so I think I'm going to really focus on being more active over the next quarter. And then they do the same OKR process that we talked about before for the business. They write it down, and then next quarter when you come and talk to them, or the manager comes and talks to them, they're being held accountable to growth. So this is a fantastic way to achieve this. This is my smiley people, right? It's a fantastic way to create a culture in your business where people feel invested in, feel cared about, and are constantly growing. And that's the PDP process. So that is a lot of information for you, but I think and I hope that you would have found that very useful if you're the right person. So if you're a business owner who's feeling a bit frustrated, who's feeling a bit stuck, you've got a team in place, you no longer want your business to be reliant on you, what I've just given you is the proven framework to make that happen. Right? We've done that with businesses. It works time and time again. You don't need to look elsewhere. Obviously, if that doesn't feel right for you, then fine. But if you want a process that works, I've just given it to you. And that's a process that's going to hack into your psychology as an owner and get you motivated for your business again. It's a process that's going to help you systemize your business in a way that creates a win-win for the core 4, right? Which is you, the owner, the business itself, your customers, and your team, right? So we've got a strategy in place that's going to make it work for all of that. It's going to take the pressure off your shoulders whilst empowering your team to run the business for you, which is going to feel difficult at the start and scary and nerve-wracking, but it will work because it will tap into their motivation and tap into your motivations. And it's going to create a growth mindset culture in your business where your business is very structured, very systemized, and always improving, and people are actually enjoying the process of improving the business. If you know that that is the process for you, you've watched this and you're like, okay, Mike, this is exactly what we need in our business. What you can do, and you would like help with that, is you can use the link below in the video. You can head over to the fractionalintegrators.com, use the link below, it's got a little hyphen in between each one, and you can jump on a call with me or the team, and we'll have a chat with you about how we can help you implement this into your business. So we've got a guaranteed service where we can actually get this done in a matter of weeks so that you're out of the business quite quickly or out of the day-to-day. So if you'd like to make this happen as quickly as possible, you know it's right for you, you want to get your business working without you, you want to get your life back, and you want to make your business systemized and ready for sale, and you want to not have any employee motivation issues, head over to that website, book a call with us, and we can have a chat about it. We won't hard sell you. We'll get clear with you about if we're a right fit, how the offer can work, and how we can make it a win-win. If you would like to, if you found this useful and you'd like more information like this about being a happy entrepreneur, having a business that works for you, not being stuck in your business, please head over to betterhappybusinessclub.com and subscribe to the emails there. Or alternatively, just subscribe to this channel. And then my final call to action, as we like to call it in the business world, is if you would like other content like this, or you've got any feedback for me to make this better, or there's other information that you'd like, or whatever it might be, please do just comment and subscribe. So subscribe to the channel, comment below. My vision and mission for my personal vision and mission is to redefine entrepreneurial success and to help at least 10,000 business owners redefine, be healthy, be happy, and get the most out of their businesses without sacrificing their health and happiness. So if you've got any advice around what you'd like to hear around that, please do comment in the video below. I hope you found this useful, and I look forward to interacting with you in future videos and sharing future content with you.